All right. Hi, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. Hi, Kate.
Hi,
Hi, how's it going?
good. How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you.
Good.
All right. We're going to go ahead and get started. It's 11 o'clock here. What time is it over there where you're at?
2 o'clock.
2 o'clock. Okay,
Yeah.
awesome, awesome. So thank you everyone for joining today. Thank you for attending our URX Talent Development Program, where we have a series of different employers and different universities coming to talk about different personal and professional development opportunities. So today we have Kate Mcroberts today, and I'll go ahead and pass over the mic to her so she can introduce herself and start the session.
Perfect. I pre-apologize for the weird Beyonce wind happening in my hair. I'm at the cottage and it's super hot, so I have all the windows open. So every 5 seconds, you're going to see a gust of air. So apologize for that. But hi, everybody. I'm Kate Mcroberts. I am a co-op coordinator for computing programs up here in Canada near Toronto at the University of Guelph. I have been involved with URX since 2016 when I went to the first conference, and have been involved in kind of various avenues since then. So I'm really excited today to just talk about some things to work on for resumes, showing your difference in terms of what's next for you, either if it's an upcoming internship or new grad job, just things to do to stand out. By all means, this is not a comprehensive, all-inclusive list. Some of the sites and things that I referenced on my presentation are not the be-all and end-all. There's a lot of information for sure, but these are just some of the ones that I'm most familiar with, and from the students that I work with as well. So let me go ahead and share my screen, and I will get started here. If there's any questions, please just put them in the chat. I am sharing my screen, so I can't actually see the chat at the moment. So I'll go through these and I'll answer any questions at the end. Okay, that's me. You already know this, already talked about this. So a couple things to add. Yes, I'm up in Canada, but I am going to talk to, assuming I know the polls will work. I assume most of you are in the States as well, US students going to US schools. I'm American, and I have worked and lived in Silicon Valley and biotech as well. So I can add to the flavor of, I have worked on the West Coast. I have worked in that environment. Yes, I'm up here in Canada now, working in the Canadian tech scene, but I do have experience in both for sure. So we're talking about showing our difference and what to do to stand out. Obviously, we, meaning us in the tech industry, have taken a big hit with COVID. That's not a surprise to anyone. I find it really interesting that I still get comments from colleagues or people that I work with is, oh, your students are fine, tech's in a bubble, it hasn't been impacted. And we obviously have all seen that it has been for sure. Layoffs, obviously budget reductions, which means reduced headcount, which means for all of us, possible reduced internships, possible reduced headcount for new grad opportunities. But not all is lost. Everyone is still working to still gather those recs, still gather that headcount. The need for student employment, whether it's internships or new grads, is still there, right? So yes, we've taken a hit, but we will recover for sure. And today we'll just talk about things that we can do, ideas and strategies. Again, it's not the be-all and end-all list. It's just the ones that I'm most familiar with. So obviously, we want to get experience. Obviously, that goes without saying. Internships are the most obvious way to build skills and experience and knowledge while you're in undergrad. Some of you may or may not have done internships yet. What I will say about that is, if you haven't already gotten in touch with your career center, with your job board, with knowing who your career counselor is, please do so. Schools have a wealth of information. They work really closely with employers throughout the States and North America and beyond, just like we all do up here in Canada as well. There's a lot of employers that will target specific schools, have specific info sessions, specific networking events. So if you haven't become already familiar with that, please do so, because there's a lot of information that's available to you that you may not know of. The next point I had is just on resumes. And again, this is not a resume workshop, so I'm not going to dig too much into it. But what I will say is, in terms of experience, make sure that if you have multiple areas of knowledge, if you have had multiple things that you've done or can show on a resume, don't worry so much. You can have multiple versions of your resume. I do not mean you have to spend, an hour rewriting it for every job, but you can have more focused and targeted resumes. Maybe you have mobile work, you've got back-end work, you've got some design work. You can tweak ever so slightly your resumes to make them slightly more targeted and then have different packages ready to go. So when you go to some of these things that we're going to talk about today, networking, communication, community events, you'll have those ready to go. And the last bullet point obviously goes without saying, this is not just an internship specific point. Obviously, when you're looking for a job, whether it be an internship, a new grad opportunity, a full-time role, you want to look early. I know that a lot of the big companies will start soon for next spring graduation roles. So late August, early September, that's the normal. Obviously, with this year and the COVID and all that, it might be slightly delayed. But look early, keep on top of those recs, either from your school will have them, or if there's specific companies that you really want to work at, you look on their websites. Stay active. What I mean by that is obviously active in your applying, active in your applications. Really try and apply to as many as you can. With the caveat is don't just put it out and hope something sticks. Really be targeted, be specific. If you would get an interview request for this job and your reaction to that interview request would be like, maybe you want to rethink it, right? Really only apply to things that you would be interested in, that if you got an interview request for, you'd be excited, and be humble. Obviously, we're all in a very interesting situation now with the economy and with jobs and maybe the hit that the industry has taken. So while maybe you get something that might not be your dream job, and we'll talk about this later, it might not be your dream job, it might not be something you want to do for the rest of your life. It's a foot in the door, and it's a way to build your skills and opportunities. Aside from internships, there's a lot more you can do, a lot more you can do to stand out to employers. And that's kind of the rest of what I'm talking about today, is other ideas apart from just an internship. Online coding competitions. So again, the 5 that I've listed here are the ones that I'm most familiar with in terms of our student base as well. Coding Game, Hackathons, MLH, Major League Hacks, CodeChef, and I put Kaggle on there. Kaggle is more suited for machine learning and data science for those of you that are interested in those areas. Again, these 5 coding competitions are really important, and they're really good at showcasing how you work within a team, how you meet deadlines, and how you work with others. So obviously in coding competitions, you all get together. They may be people you know, they may be people that you don't know. You get together, you solve a problem in a timed fashion. So what that does for you in terms of skills and technical knowledge is it allows you, how do I work best with others? How do I delineate work effectively, right? Who does what, and who's jumping up to a leadership role? Who's, kind of more falling into place, like, okay, let's complete X, Y, and Z. It's going to show you all that. That's the kind of pull and takeaway you want to get from these online coding competitions. I don't mean that you have to do, 10 a week, by all means, not at all. But that's the kind of thing that's going to make you stand out to employers, because you're going to have that wherewithal, you're going to have that knowledge just from doing some of these competitions for sure. And then along those lines of coding competitions is coding practice. I put the first bit on there just because I feel like there's a really crazy, weird, odd competitiveness with you all in terms of how many did you do and how fast did you do it? And, I've been doing lead code for a year to try and get an interview at Amazon or things like that. Try and learn them at your own pace. Try and push that all aside. Do it on your own. Don't rush it. Go through it as you can go through it on your own. Then once you get more familiar, try it on your own and try and answer it without help, and then use Google to find out the answer. In essence, Google is your friend, has been, I'm sure, at undergrad, and will continue to be, once you enter the workforce or whatever, search portal that you like other than Google. That's what you're going to use, that kind of self-learning, trying to figure out the answers on your own. That's what's really important. Again, these ones here, I'm sure you are all very, very familiar with. Those are the ones that we use most here in terms of Canadian students. And you may laugh that I have cracking the coding interview still on there. I know it probably seems super archaic to a lot of you. I still use it in terms of when I'm speaking to my students about just starting the process of thinking about technical interview or coding questions. I know a lot of employers here, again, also still use it and still reference it. So for those of you that like more of a book, an actual book to read it or go through it that way, I still think it's a really valid piece. So coding competitions, yes. Online coding questions, yes. I really can't stress enough that my personal opinion as developing a portfolio is really, really important. And we'll talk about ways a portfolio can be. It can be lots of different ways, lots of different design. But what a portfolio is a way for employers to see in a really collective, cohesive way everything about you, what you've done in school, what you've done for personal projects, maybe volunteer work, your coding and what it looks like. And it's a really nice way for employers to see in a really nice, easy way, hey, this is about me. This is kind of what I've done. This is my tech wherewithal, my tech skills and knowledge. Here you go. Rather than just seeing it on a resume, right? A portfolio is giving you, obviously you're linking it on your resume. They're going to dig into it. So the first thing they're going to look at on your resume is your portfolio, a lot more information. Continuous self-learning. You all have chosen, a degree in technology, a career choice in technology that will force you to be able to self-learn. You will always have to continually learn. There will never be a point in time in your careers where you'll get comfortable, you'll become subject matter experts 100%. You'll be very knowledgeable 100%. But as we all know, something new will come in, a new language, a new operating system, whatever it may be. The new will come in and the out will go. And if you're okay with that, you'll survive. If you're not okay with that, you won't, right? So the continuous self-learning builds into a portfolio because you're going to need to keep adding to it. And you keep adding to it, keep updating it, keep it updated, which is the second point there. Portfolio must be consistent and it must stay updated. Consistent, I mean by consistent format, whatever format that you choose, stick with it. And then update it, obviously, make sure it's up to date. Keep active codes, keep active projects. If everything you have on there is several years old or all old, employers are just not going to look at it the same way. They're going to look at it kind of with a, this person didn't have enough time or maybe interest to update it with what they've done so far. And then they'll just maybe think that you haven't done anything so far if everything is a year or two old. So it's really, really important to keep that updated. Portfolios develop your intuition, obviously your creative problem-solving skills. Many students use, Blogger, WordPress, and GitHub, obviously, to build portfolios. You can use whatever you want. At the University of Guelph, where I work, the co-op students, their work term report, every work term that they do is to build a website or a blog. And so most of them are using it like this as developing a portfolio for every work term that they do for collective, cohesive, hey, this is what I did for my 5 work terms. This is kind of the same thought process. Whatever areas that you're interested in, whatever they may be, and they could be all over the map, that's totally fine. Keep pursuing them. I have the word tinker, is just do something outside of just school to show your skills and interests. Absolutely, employers look for that as a differentiator. They look for that as you standing out above everyone else. Because when you get into the habit of receiving applications, you're used to seeing kind of, if it's from a school or collective schools, you kind of get used to seeing what the projects are in school. Not that they're not good, they're great, but you get used to seeing kind of the same information. So all of these portfolio or personal things that you do will really stand out. Try something new, branch out for what you do know. There's always more to learn. You never know as much as you think you do. I try and follow that. I don't mean that in a negative way. I just mean there's always more information. There's always more knowledge. There's always other things that you could apply or do. That's what I mean. Branch off a little from what you're used to. That's my dog whining, sorry. The last bit I have on here is just an idea. So portfolios could be websites, they could be blogs. If you don't have an idea of a personal project, you could volunteer to fix or update a local business or a nonprofit, their website or their application. It doesn't cost them anything. If they don't like it, they won't use it. But at least it gives you an opportunity to, hey, I'm a computer science student, or I'm a software engineering student, software development student. I would love to just work on this for you. I have some ideas. Here you go. And you kind of leave it on their lap and see if they take it. If they do, awesome. And anyway, you'll put the experience in your portfolio. So sorry about her. Other ideas would be to start a technical blog and write about problems and how you've solved them. I think of that as like when you do a technical interview and you're coding and you're stating your assumptions out loud and you're stating your thought process out loud of how you're getting to the start of your code to the end. This is like a written version of that, right? So you're writing about the problems that you're solving and how that you're solving them. And again, you're doing that on a fairly continuous basis of a technical blog. Most of you, I'm sure, have done an open source project. If you haven't, definitely look into it. There's lots of ways to contribute to an open source project. Obviously, if you're just starting out, start small and start on bug fixes and pull requests and how to, what does clean code look like and how to maintain your code. And then you build up from there. Outside of just coding and programming, there's lots of areas on documentation and how to do that well if you want to kind of go down the documentation route. There's areas on design if you're more interested in the design part. So open source projects really give you I would say you can look at others. Maybe you can get inspiration for some of your own projects through others. It gives you the ability to get into that skill, maybe dig down into the language that you like and really hone your skills on that language or other languages or areas or software that you're interested in. And it's like-minded people, it's like-minded individuals. So you can really use that to kind of build your skills and bounce off others as well. The next point I have here is go directly to the source, and I have big 5 in parentheses. I don't mean that you need to be hired and look for jobs only from the big 5, not at all. The big 5, Amazon, Netflix, Apple, Facebook, and Google is who I'm referencing when I say big 5 even if you're not interested in any of those companies, all of those companies and other larger tech companies will have and do have a huge amount of information available on their websites. How their technical interviews look, what their interview process is, what languages they prefer, areas that they really stress for their interviews, workshops, info sessions, technical guides, like a wealth of information. So if you haven't checked those out already, please do so, because there's a ton of information available. Again, even if you're not even remotely interested in those companies, you'll be able to take away that information and to help you prepare and just give you ideas of maybe areas to prepare for that you're not as prepared as maybe you could be. And obviously the last one, goes without saying, please have a public GitHub and a good LinkedIn account. So if you have a GitHub and everything is private, obviously employers cannot see your code. That is a problem. And I know we get into sticky situations with profs and class projects and things like that. Obviously, number one, always go to your prof and ask if you can, hey, I'm going to put my code, my source project, my contributions to this project on my GitHub. Is that okay? You're asking permission. You're only going to include your code. If anything else is on there, you will source that, et cetera, et cetera. Most of the time, it's totally fine as long as they know when you're asking. And obviously, after the course is done, that goes without saying. Most of the time, it's fine, but please make sure you have public contributions so that employers can actually see it. And then that goes without saying, an active and updated LinkedIn account. LinkedIn is still really, really great for networking. All sorts of things are on LinkedIn in terms of networking, communication, online forums, and things like that. So make sure that that's updated as well. Networking and extracurriculars. So besides the technical coding interview, coding challenges, let's kind of shift the gear to networking and extracurriculars. I personally really love the word extracurriculars. I like seeing it on a resume. I think it's all encompassing. I think that when you say extracurriculars, to me, you can have a lot of information under there. You can have hackathons, coding challenges, student clubs you're a part of, awards that you've won, volunteer highlights that you want to include. Kind of all encompassing goes under extracurriculars. So that's why I like it. Obviously, you can use whatever you like on your own resume and your own portfolio. And again, I'm referencing that as you can have it as part of your portfolio and on your resume as well. You can have a whole section of extracurriculars on your portfolio. That will be the same on your resume, but on your portfolio, you can obviously dig in and explain a lot more. Again, these 6 that I have, I find really useful. Obviously, Grace Hopper, if you are a woman or identify as a woman in tech, TechCrunch series is really good. I put South by Southwest on there. I know that's not a traditional tech conference per se, but the tech and enterprise track of South by Southwest is really, really good and specific. Collision, that's one of those kind of bigger, mega conferences with, like thousands of attendees. This one, Collision, changes locations every 3 years. So June of 21 will be the last year in Toronto. And then after that, I don't know where the next location is, but they're really, really, really great. Multi-day, again, lots of attendees, lots of different workshops and info sessions to do. Meetup.com, I love. I'm a part of Meetup.com, both in the States and our, in essence, Canadian equivalents, and part of a lot of organizations like that. Like there's a DevTO, which is Dev Toronto, and Dev Waterloo, and all these different online communities that are really great. You can go in, very specifically look for groups or areas that you're interested in and in your local communities, and kind of see what's going on, see what's available. And same with Stack Overflow. Again, that's more of like a Q&A for devs and programmers, but again, it's still an online community. Still kind of filter down by location or by subject area that you're looking for. Extracurriculars are really, really, really important, again, for the differentiator factor, in that they show that you're involved in something that you like, other than just pure classwork, and that you are connecting with other individuals in some way, shape, or form. That's what extracurriculars mean. And so, like I said at the beginning, could be top volunteer awards you did, could be within your school. It could be a peer helper program that you're a part of, or you mentor maybe junior level students if you're a senior level student. And things like that are extracurriculars. Career Center, again, use them. There's probably a lot of opportunities on campus to be involved or get involved into like a mentorship perspective that you may not have known, which is great for extracurriculars. Hackathons, goes without saying. Many schools have their own hackathons that you can do. There are community-led hackathons, employer-led hackathons, national-level hackathons. There's so many. Obviously, with COVID, you're probably not going to be doing the weekend all together in a small, windowless room for 48, 72 hours coding. Probably more in a virtual aspect, but that's fine. It's totally doable anyways, right? And then the last 2 points are more of, extracurriculars and the networking and the communication. So obviously, the better communicator you are, the more confidence you're going to have, the more relaxed you're going to be. I find this really an interesting area to discuss with tech students in particular, because I find there's so much onus and so much weight on the tech aspect. And yes, resumes in our world, in our industry, should be very specific and very concise and very technical, but that doesn't mean to lose all kind of soft skills or non-technical skills, such as communication and teamwork and things like that. Those still play a huge factor. And again, it shows a difference in what maybe the mainstream tech student isn't, right? So networking is really key. Through all the things that we've talked about thus far, it's networking. It's getting involved. It's getting in front of other people and talking. It may be getting in front of potential employers if you go to a conference, an online conference, or an online info session with a particular employer. You're explaining your interests. And I have that in bold. It's so much easier to explain yourself in a conversation like this, your skills and your interests in a conversation, even if it's web, even if it's like this and not face-to-face. That's so much easier and so much better for a potential employer to hear a conversation like this versus just having your resume in an ATS, into kind of the vast black hole of ATS systems. And you kind of hope that your resume is matched with keywords, and you hope you make it out of the black hole and at least into someone's hands so that somene's actually looking at it, right? I mean, we all face that. It's a lot easier if you can find a way to get in front of a person and discuss yourself that way than it is just by purely applying and never really having the interactive or the connectivity. So I can't stress communication enough. Technical communication also involved in that, non-technical communication, all of that, referencing when I talk about communication. I threw a slide in here on outside learning, and please don't think that I'm asking you all to spend more money on more learning. I know that you all are spending a lot of money to attend, the institution that you attend, hard-earned money that is well spent. I do not mean you have to go spend more money on any of these. I'm just offering it as an alternate solution, an alternate way of getting information, maybe on a really specific area that maybe your school doesn't have classes on, or maybe it's not in your sequence, or it's not offered at the same time, or whatever it is. Maybe there's something there that you can dig into. Some of these are paid, some of these are not, but I do think they're worth mentioning nonetheless. Code Academy, paid and free, just depends on what you're looking at. CodePath is a fee involved. I know that they do have financial assistance available too. Coursera is a lot more of an online courses towards a certificate kind of a program. edX is interesting. edX is like a global nonprofit that was started from their core contributors were people alum from Harvard, MIT, and Berkeley. It's all free, and so they've kind of collectively gathered and put information on there for free. Udemy and Udacity are both a fee involved, they're both paid. I will say a lot of these did have previously like free trials or free 90 days, especially with COVID and the impact that it had on students. Some of them might continue this through fall and through 2021. I'm not sure, you'll have to just check. And then lastly, the MIT Open Courseware, obviously that's open, it's free, it's available. And again, all of these are just set up, especially the free ones. It doesn't actually cost you anything to go and look at any of these to get more information, or maybe additional. If you're not quite sure of a subject or just kind of want to dig into a subject matter further, these are really, really great, great ways of learning that you don't have to do. I'll stress that. Okay, quick interview tips. Again, this is not an interview workshop per se, but I did want to cover one slide on my kind of tips to stand out in an interview. They will likely seem very obvious, maybe, but I still feel like they're worthwhile to talk about, just because I've been involved on many interviews, and things that I have picked up on an interview and being on on the other end as well. Obviously, number one, be yourself. I know everyone says that. Everyone says interviews are fine, just be yourself. It's just a conversation and relax, and it is 100%. But especially now when a lot of us are doing interviews like this, it's still stressful and it's odd. And on webcam interviews, you have to be like on the whole time because it's just an odd sense of staring at the camera here or looking at yourself down there. But be yourself, try to as much as possible, because you will be more relaxed when you are yourself. You will be less stressed and less nervous, and it will come across that way, right? So just try and take a breath, be yourself, don't try and be someone else. Know your strengths and weaknesses, know what you're good at and where you lack. A lot of, even if you have a pure technical role, usually somewhere along the lines of the interview, they're going to ask you about your SWOT. They're going to ask you about your strengths and your weaknesses, right? We always want to be honest and truthful about what they are, but you never want to end or focus on the negative. You want to end or focus on a positive, even if you don't have it. So if they ask you about a language that you don't know or a platform that you're not familiar with, try not to just say, no, I don't know that, and then have it kind of end there, because it ends on a negative, right? It's like, oh, okay, it ends on a negative. What we want to do is kind of, no, I don't have that. However, and you pivot, which is the word of, this year, century, pivot into, but, I taught myself PHP, or I taught myself JavaScript on this personal project that I did with X, Y, and Z. And you go on and you explain it, right? So no, I don't have that, but I did teach myself this, or I did learn this, which is maybe like a closely related language. It's showing that, no, I don't. You're being honest, I don't have it, but you're spinning it into a strength of, but I'm not afraid of learning, and I'm not afraid of challenges, and I'm not afraid of doing it, if I don't know it. So in an interview, even in a face-to-face interview or even a web interview, I've always seen that if you ask someone a question and if they don't know it, even the body language of no, I don't know. So you're kind of coming to is, no, I'm not sure what that is, but yet this is what I have. It shows that you're active and you're interested in it, rather than even so subtle as if you're in an interview and you're asked something you don't know, or maybe it's a scenario question about something you've never heard of. If it's more of the like, uh-oh, I don't know it. And you almost kind of even inadvertently shy away from like, I don't know that answer and I'm going to bomb this question, and that happens, right? It's even so subtle as just a movement like that. And in your actual work itself, no, I don't have that. So that's kind of what I mean by know your strengths and weaknesses and know how to talk about them, and be truthful but not negative. Be truthful, be honest is the next one. Obviously, you all know that if it's on your resume or if it's on your portfolio, it is fair game to discuss. So make sure that if you have something included on your resume or your portfolio, that you can talk about it in an intelligent way. I have come across so many students who just put things on their resume because they think that that's what they should have on it, even though they don't really even know what it is. That's the worst possible thing you could possibly do. If you don't know it, don't put it on there. Obviously, like on resumes, focus, in your languages, you're going to write them in order of proficiency, right? So employers are going to read your resume and or your portfolio, and they're going to see the languages that you have first. They're going to assume you know not the most, and they're going to look for more information on those, and they will assume the last one that you have listed, you know about it, but you don't know as much, right? So as long as you're honest about that, you'll be fine. Stay humble. We kind of talked about that already. Even in an interview as well, there's always areas that you're not going to know. If you have a purely technical coding interview and you're whizzing through all the questions, no problem. And then usually the employers, they're on purpose going to give you a question that you don't know, or that should stump you, or that maybe is challenging for you. That's the point of them, right? The point is not to break your spirit. It's to see, all right, the first couple were easy. Let's throw this one and see, how they do. So stay humble. There's always more to learn. There's always more information out there. Just kind of keep that a part of you. Obviously talk about your accomplishments 100%, but you talk about it in a way that is in line with what they are looking for. Be confident, same kind of thing. So 100% be confident in your skills and how you're coming across. You just don't want to come across as arrogant. You don't want to come across as putting yourself up on a pedestal, because again, you're looking for a job. You're looking to increase your skills and knowledge, right? You're not doing anyone a favor, and they're not doing you a favor. You are interviewing for a role that you are qualified for, and you're just communicating how you're qualified for that role with your skills and knowledge. Be professional. Yes, please. This goes, a long way. Obviously, in interviews, you're going to, be professional, look professional, speak clearly, be professional. It also applies to your portfolio. In terms of everything on your portfolio, any sort of personal project should have a professional subject matter. That goes without saying, even though kind of what we say in school, and I'm sure your school and career counselors have said the same, like do personal projects, do things outside of school. Yes, 100%, but it doesn't mean that you can do them on anything and have it as part of your portfolio. You have to make sure that the subject matter is still professional, and same in an interview, just be professional. Understand that you might not get your dream job first, and that's okay. I kind of referenced this earlier as well. Get your foot in the door. Maybe it's a company that you really, really want to work for. And so maybe you take a job that is not your favorite, but again, it's a foot in the door, especially if it's a company where you're really interested or want to get a dent into, then your foot's in the door, you do the work, and then who knows what's going to come your way. Usually opportunity comes when you do a really great job. So get in there, do a really great job, and then more things will come. You never know what can come of a job. And that leads into the last point as well, is whatever position that you get, don't neglect that role to get ahead on something else. I have seen that happen time and time again. Maybe someone really just wants a pure dev role, and maybe they start and get maybe a QA or a testing role or an automation role, and they completely bypass that role that they were hired for, and they just try and connect to like the dev manager or things like that, and they go around the system and they circumvent that 99% of the time will work completely against you. What does work is get in there, do the job that you were hired to do, and do it really, really well. Knock their socks off, make an impression, be committed to the work, be a really great teammate, and then doors will open. a lot of the times when that happens, even if you were hired to do, one role in particular, if you communicate and if you do a great job and you continue to be trustworthy, they're going to give you more work to do, more work with like a leadership or a project management or a self-management role. So they'll give you more work, not have to micromanage you as much, not have to check in as much. The onus is more on you to lead it. It's more on you to kind of self-manage and figure it out, knowing that if you have a problem, you of course will ask and then continue on. But that will happen, right? And then if you communicate to your supervisor, to your manager, whether it's on your own time of one-on-ones, maybe your goals for the next term, the next month, depending if you're an internship or full-time, the next 6 months or a year, what have you. If you communicate what your goals are and the things that you want to either work on, get better at, are interested in, or would like to get exposed to, if you communicate that well, if you do a really great job, 9 times out of 10, your manager, your supervisor is going to incorporate that new areas, new topics, new projects, whatever it is, into your role, right? So I can't stress that enough, that whatever job that you land, it may be your dream job, it may not be. Take it for what it is, learn the skills and knowledge, and do a really, really great job. Keep your networks, keep your connections, because you never kind of know. I know you've heard that a million times. You never know where a job can lead you. It's super true though, right? I mean, half of networking and job searching and recruitment in general is networking, talking, and who you know, or making those connections. Again, getting in front of a person as opposed to just putting your resume in an ATS. Next are just identifying career path, just some questions. I threw these in because, I have a background in ITM, is my degree, and I didn't go through all these questions when I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do. I kind of just randomly picked it because computers were interesting, and so I just did it. And not that there's anything wrong with that, but the next 2 slides cover some questions that you may not have thought about, maybe you have, but could help you and try in terms of what jobs you're looking for, what industries, what companies, that may kind of shine light on what you might like to do, and or your learning style or working style. So, how much time do you want to code? Do you want to code 100% all the time, every day? Or do you like some aspects of coding, but would like to do maybe other things as well? Do you like the business end, commercial business end of it, perhaps, or not? Do you like more of the behind the scenes? Do you like to troubleshoot? Do you hate troubleshooting? Would QA or testing be your worst nightmare? Or would it make you a more well-rounded dev to be able to test and go through and troubleshoot your own code? Do you like to work with end users, with clients? Or do you prefer more on the dev side, the strategy side? Do you like short-term projects, or do you like longer deadlines? Again, that will differ between internship and a full-time role, obviously, because the length is different. But again, it's, do you like to kind of complete and check the box and move on and get things out to production? Or do you prefer more to dig in, get your nails sturdy, as they say, on really big, meaty projects that if you're there for an internship, you may or may not even, you may just contribute and then you leave. You may not see the beginning, you may not see the end. And a full-time role might take years, years to come to fruition. Do you want to work with others? Do you want to work with other devs or software engineers, computer scientists, or are you okay being the IT person? That comes into play, especially if you are looking for jobs that it's not like a tech company, right? If you look for jobs outside of just pure tech companies, you may be the sole tech person or one of a handful. Some students and some people love that. Some not so much, right? So those kind of think about where you see yourself in terms of your working style better. Are you interested in building things from scratch, or can you develop someone else's ideas? We see this a lot in co-op, and I'm sure those of you who have done internships as well can attest that in school, when you're coding, you're developing your own code, obviously. When you go to a job in industry, you're sometimes smack dab in the middle of an enormous code base, trying to read someone else's code that may or may not be maintained, may or may not be readable, and you're kind of just thrown in there, and you're like, okay, what do I do next, right? Again, some people that's awesome, like let's get into it. Some it's like, oh, I'd rather build it on my own from scratch. And then the last one here that I thought was important to think about is, do you like to report to a single manager, Or are you more suited to maybe more multiple clients, multiple people to talk to, maybe like a PM role, kind of things like that. So all of these, and there's more questions, of course, that you can ask you, but what I was trying to get to the point here is, if you don't know, ask, right? Like all the things we've talked about thus far, all those kind of online communities and forums, ask people, talk to people that are in these roles that maybe you don't know anything about, or maybe you want clarification on, or maybe you say, hey, I'm trying to think of, I really want to work with others. I really like the dev side, but I really like design. What could I do with that, right? So if you don't know, talk. You never know what could happen. You never know what kind of job you may kind of uncover. You may not even thought of that might be a fit for you, that might be a fit for you. And then the next two slides are in relation to that. Again, I've only put 5 particular jobs up. There's obviously so many jobs out there in tech for sure. But it kind of links those questions that you ask yourself, maybe some of your skills and maybe some areas that you might want to think about. And then the link is there. It's the person who wrote this article. I thought it was really good. And so mobile developer. So maybe that might be an area for you if you have an eye for detail, if you love design, along with the tech aspects of it, right? Those kind of collectively both. Maybe that might be an area for you. Maybe data science is an area for you. You like data, you like numbers, you like analytics, you like to dig into it and to kind of see patterns and manipulations and what companies, departments, groups could do with that data to help the company grow. Maybe data science is for you. PM, project management. If you're super organized, you love working with others, collaborating with others, and can, like I said here, balance the needs of many in order to deliver something, deliver a product, deliver what may be. So PMs are obviously balancing the needs of the whole team, not just your sole contributions, right? So that's definitely not a fit for everyone, but it is a fit for others. I would say with PMs as well, the whole technical and non-technical communication is a big one as well, because they may be communicating with other areas. They might need to discuss technical with a non-technical audience. You'll see that ahead too. Front-end engineer, you like learning because there's always new languages to learn. And maybe you like the UI aspect of it too. Maybe front-end is for you. DevOps, I mean, here in Canada, DevOps jobs in terms of co-op jobs are all over the place. And I don't know if it's the same in the States or not. That's why I put this one on here. So DevOps, I mean, obviously I, attune it to linking development and operations. So if you like coding and you like the features, but you also want to learn the other side into what happens to it, the releasing, the production environment, and kind of can do both of those. Again, in that one, the communication, the technical and non-technical communication is a big one there too. So again, these are just 5 examples of maybe some jobs that maybe you've thought about, maybe you haven't thought about, but maybe taking a look at yourself and that kind of self-reflection aspect of what you might or might not want to do. And then the last slide here is just on mentorship. So obviously, everything I've talked about today kind of has to do with mentorship. It has to do with connecting with others, like-minded individuals, trying to figure out what you want to do and maybe areas you want to go in. I personally find that there are more mentorship opportunities, especially online opportunities in the States than there are here up in Canada. We've got some great ones, don't get me wrong, but I find that there's a lot more to choose from, a lot more variety in the States. And so these are the ones that, again, I am familiar with, and there are more. Microsoft has a great open tech community. Some of these are paid, like you have to pay a fee to be a part of them. Some are free. You can go on and click on the ones that you want. The Muse, Career Karma, Code Mentor, Out in Tech is a really great one. And then developer DSCs. So Google, and I know that they've done this across the world. Google has developed developer student clubs. Your campus may have one, you may not. But they've developed these student clubs where it is not just for tech students. Obviously, a lot of tech students are in them, but it's more interdisciplinary, where there's students from other programs and they come together and they build a project using Google technologies. That's the Google aspect of it, but it's not a Google-sponsored club or anything. But again, it's just a really great opportunity to talk to people about what you might want to do maybe what they've done, their career path versus what you've been doing. Maybe it's someone who's gone to your school or alum or so on. There's also a ton of opportunities within your school. I kind of touched on this earlier in terms of maybe peer helper, looking over resumes for first-year students, going in, and if you're a senior level student and have done internships, going in and talking to freshmen, hey, you're in your first year in college, this is what I would do. This is some advice that I would get, and get in touch with your local, kind of within your school or even your local community, student groups, student clubs, community groups that you're a part of, and get that mentorship aspect. It's really, really important. There's a lot of it available as long as you know where to look and where to go. And that is all I had. So I will stop sharing my screen so I can at least access the screen again. And then I did have polls in here. I hope everyone has answered them. If you go to the polls section, have you completed an internship? Yes or no? What year were you? Things like that.
Ooh, hello.
Hi.
If you need any help with the Q&A.
Yeah, no, I don't see any at the moment in this session. I just finished 5 seconds ago, so if anybody has any questions, please do, send them in the chat feature. I hope this was informative and gave some great information. Again, I'm in Canada, but I think I gave all the US references for everything. And again, a lot of it is transferable anyway. Us in North America, even though the border's still closed technically, there's a lot of back and forth between students in Canada and students in the US.
Yeah, let's see if there's any. Pretty quiet group today. Does anybody have any questions? I guess with your background, just working in this, university space, what is the best piece of advice that you can give to students, especially during this time?
Yeah, great question. It's a crazy time for everyone. So number one, just know that, and that everyone's in this together. Employers realize it's been insane for students in particular, for everyone. So there is a flexibility, a leniency there that if you had an internship and it was rescinded, it's not your fault, right? If you weren't able to secure something because of everything, or if you're looking for fall and you haven't been able to secure something, it's okay, right? And so my biggest piece of advice is just to take a breath and realize that it's a global pandemic and it's not just you. It's affecting everyone, and do take the time, if you've got time, whether if you're doing online school this semester or not, do some of these things to kind of help out your portfolio, build your portfolio, help out your resume, so that when it does come time to look, you haven't just taken this time off completely and not kind of helped build your skills, right? There's still a lot you can do virtually and online on your own. When you are ready to look for a job, whether it be an internship or a full-time job, that will really help your resume. Yeah, but don't panic. It's my biggest piece of advice. Is it's stressful for everybody, so there's no need to kind of add that added pressure that it's just you, or that you're not going to get a job or things like that. Everyone's affected, so it's just stay calm, take a breath. It will be okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah. Thank you so much for that advice. And I know earlier you had mentioned about, really taking advantage of the Career Center at your university or your college. And I think, that's so important. When I was in my undergrad and graduate career, I know how helpful they are. They have access to all the different employers in the region. So it's important for you to pick their brain, attend all those info sessions and those virtual networking events to take advantage of, because the career centers are there to help you. So
absolutely. Yeah. They're there to help, right? Like your career center at whatever school you're at, they are there to help you prepare, do mock interviews with you, go through your resume with you. Yes, we talked about all these other plethoras of information that for mentorship, yes. But the schools are really connected with industry. That is my job, to connect with industry and vice versa. And so don't leave them out of the piece of the puzzle, because they'll definitely help you out.
Awesome. Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you. Just checking to see last minute if there's any other questions. All right. There's no other questions. But I think, you gave a great presentation, and this info session will be recorded and put on our URX for Students LinkedIn page. So thank you so much again to everyone for attending, and thank you, Kate, for hosting this session. It was really helpful, and it's so awesome to hear from a university perspective on how students should take advantage of different resources. So
Awesome.
Thank you so much.
Happy to be a part of it. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, everybody. Hope you have a great rest of your day. And we'll touch base with you all in regards to upcoming sessions. Thank you, everybody. Thanks, Kate.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye.